Hey, it's Jay here. I'm in my garage as 2025 closes out. Today, as I film this, it's Black Saturday 2025. So I thought I'd close out November by doing a toolbox tour in my garage. I'm going to tour my toolbox, this auxiliary cabinet over here. I do have an air compressor in the corner that also feeds my woodworking shop. I've got these cabinets back here, and then these upper shelves are just full of bins of parts. I plan to do my full woodworking shop tour to close out December. So my end of the year finale will be the woodworking shop tour 2025. If you're interested in that, like and subscribe. Let's take a look at the toolbox. Right, everything I do in this shop is from this corner. So this big drawer at the top, I really like. It acts as my tool cart, and when I'm working, there's a whole bunch of tools in here, and that is where I can go know I can find all the stuff while I'm working on it. It's really cut down on the amount of loss I have. Plus it holds so much stuff. I've got full sets of Tecton 1/4 inch here, 3/8 here. I have the full set except I think these talls in 3/8 I think are old Craftsman. Yeah, our Craftsman US made, and you can see they're not a full set. This is the full Tecton set. I'm missing stuff from the Craftsman bits and pieces, but just haven't gotten around to finishing that off yet. Back in here I have a bunch of random 1/2 inch sizes that I've needed before, and I've bought as I've needed them basically. And then I have some, what are these? These are Tecton, I think. Yeah, but I've got a bunch of Tecton ratchets. They're okay. I've got the gold icon. I actually use it. Unlike a lot of people who just store it, I use it. And here is a bunch of and here's a bunch of different extensions and adapters, and even extensions for my air. And back in here I've got just some bigger 1/2 inch drive sockets. I don't really have a full 1/2 inch set anywhere. I've got a partial 1/2 inch, well, I have a sort of 1/2 inch set up above that I'll show later. And then I have more 1/2 inch sets here and there in little cases that I use. Here I've got a bunch of different oddball sockets that I use for a bunch of things. I've got hex, US and metric. I've got these shorty hex, and then I've got some Torx. I've got these flex head metrics. Those are pretty nice. And then I've got some just oddball large hex things that I've needed for various projects. I think one of them fits like a Volkswagen Bug, and then there's various transmissions and things that I've had to drain that had weird drain plugs on them, things like that. Back in here I've got these crow's feet. Those are US sized. And I've got some impact 1/2 inch back there. They're sort of backups. Don't use those much obviously because they're just stuff piled on top. All of this back in here is my, it's a I bought a kind of crappy Duratech set of these spark plug sockets. They were really nice for one use, and then their magnets all fell out, so they did the jobs that I needed them to do one time. So basically one of these sockets can do a V8 before the magnet falls out. So you get maybe 7 or 8 cylinders before they're done, and those will probably get thrown away as I try to upgrade and find something better. But for Fords to get down into the Coyote engines, you gotta kind of have these thin sockets in a way to hold the spark plugs in there. I've got a bunch of writing utensils and things like that, some scissors here. And then over here I have most of my pliers. It's just random stuff. I went on a Knipex spree for a while and bought some stuff. These are Engineer. These are pretty nice. These are great, actually. They're supposed to be for taking screws out from the front, but they turn out to be really good at taking off the band clamps, the clamps that have a slider on it that you kind of got to grip. I've got some various vice grip clones there. I used to have all Craftsman back in the day, so a lot of stuff is leftovers from those days. And then I have a bunch of channel lock stuff. Those, and then most of the rest of it is Knipex, and then there's some oddball stuff over here. I have sets of snap ring things, and some super cheap pliers for holding things while I'm on a grinder or something that's going to heat up or something like that. Anyway, that's this. I got a huge socket here for something, don't remember what. And I have some safety wire here. I've got some safety pliers somewhere, but I use the safety wire mostly to hold things together and things like that. Oh, I've got a vinyl siding tool, just what I need for cars. That shouldn't be in this box, that should be in another one. That's that top box. Down the center row of drawers, I've got, this is my screwdriver drawer. I've got these screwdriver organizers that hold mostly sets of old Craftsman stuff. I've got a few of these guys, some Weira stuff. It's okay. I'm not fully sold on them being any better than the old Craftsman stuff, honestly, but I've got some picks in here and there. I've got different, there's a bunch of Torx up in here, and just bit sets. This is a safety bit set that has the hollowed out centers and things like that, so I can get into almost anything. This is just a kind of regular bit set, but I have the little driver in here that is a ratcheting thin driver, so you can use it in different places. This DeWalt set of bits and stuff is just a bunch of various bits that I use with my tools up above, and yeah, some small like dental pick type things. This one is kind of a grab bag of stuff. I've got oh boy, this is a lot. I've got some big crimpers for when I'm doing work with steel wire. Crimp down all the different fittings on those kind of braided steel wire stuff. Got a couple of different hacksaws. I've got another spare bunch of things. I've got what is this guy called? Shoot. Riv nut tool. And then pop rivet tool here. This problem with this Husky toolbox that I don't like is these top two drawers are super thin, so you can't really make a lot of use of them. When you get down to the next drawer, this is what I want further up, is all my wrenches. So I've got a bunch of wrenches here, and I don't know, where is this one? This one's a 3/8. Where do you go, 3/8? Goes up there. So over on this side are all my ratcheting Craftsman, and then these are my bigger, they're all metric, I think. They're sort of 1920 through 30 basically. And then I have some of these offsets, they're really useful, and I have some bigger offset US sizes, and over here is just regular non-ratcheting, mostly Craftsman wrenches as well. Every now and then there's a wrench from another brand. When I lost something like this 17, somehow I left a 17 at the track or something, so I wound up having to buy one at a car parts store. And then I have a whole bunch of hex wrenches, and then I have these two sets, which are these thin wrenches, and they're double-sided. kind of nice. They were really cheap on Amazon. I bought both US and metric sizes. I just kept running into problems where I needed a thinner thing. And you can see I have some older ones that I've sort of hacked and made into other things, and some of them are made bigger than they used to be. I think I have a roller blade one that I ground out to fit something on the Miata. Okay, this is a whole bunch of, these are all my torque wrenches, and then these are oil filter removal things up in here too, oil filter remover tools. I have clamps, those help a lot, usually with brakes when I'm trying to crank on the brakes. Then I have all my hammers and mallets over there. That's a pretty simple drawer. And then my bottom drawer is kind of a garbage collection of sorts. I've got these long torque socket set. That's a Tecton set. BMW owners will have one of those. I've got this set of, it's just a cobalt set. I kind of needed it and had to go buy it, but these kind of sockets that you sort of act as extra long sockets because you can pop them in there and screws can go through. I needed something that was way too long for even a long socket. I have this toolkit, and this is what I take to the track with me, and I load it up, and it's got, I know what goes in each one. I've got a little piece of paper in here somewhere that tells what goes in here, and I just load it up when I go to the track. This is a really nice thing. I can't remember the name of the tool company that makes it, Atlas 46. It's pretty cool. And then also this tool bag. I've got just a handwritten piece of paper somewhere that tells me what to put in all those, that gets 90% of Miata stuff good. And then this is really my 1/2-inch socket sets. I've got these 2 sets of deep sockets from from random auto parts stores that I use, and they're almost always out as my 1/2-inch. I've got a breaker bar. That's the one I take to the track. I've got a heat gun over there. Back in here I've got some various test equipment. Let's see what this one is. I don't even remember. I'll know to look here when I'm looking for it. This is one of these quickie scan tools. That one works well for BMWs if I remember right. That's why I got that at one point. You'll see my newer scan tool kind of overrides all these. This one this is an older ABS brake scan tool. This is, I think, yeah, this is early stuff from older GMs and things like that. GMs and Chryslers and Fords and whatever. It's just things that I needed in the past. I don't know if I still need them with the tools that I have, but I have them, and this one's pretty convenient to just take with you when you go someplace. And there's another one down here, another cheap scan tool down here. And then I've got one of these things you can plug in, scan gauge. So if I need to drive around and look at stuff, I can use that. This is a heat gun. This is an automatic drain for my air compressor that it doesn't really fit the way I have it mounted, so I keep meaning to remount my air compressor and add that in. Got the right side drawers here. This top one is just a bunch of wire brushes, things to clean things off. I've got some stuff here. I've got shoelaces to hold things together, monofilament, things like that. And then I've got these random things for some of my steel stuff, I think is what all that is from. Steel spark plugs and disassembly of two strokes. This is a drawer that I hadn't used much, and I've got a crimper and stethoscope thing. This is a bunch of sort of specific tools. I've got You can see there's clamps for various lines in here. There's battery cleaning tools. I've got one of these. I've got the steering wheel puller that I wind up pulling a lot of things with. I don't know why I have this tire plug kit anymore. I should get rid of that. I've got some specialty tools. This pulley installer kit, sort of, some of that's over there as well. I've got specialty tools for Miatas right here. Most of these things are, I think, specialty tools to take out and install the pulleys on the front of a Miata and set timing and do all that kind of stuff. And then I've got one of these things that's supposed to help you take on and off hose clamps. It sometimes helps, sometimes hinders. Okay, the next drawer down is a bunch of pry type stuff. So I've got, what is this? This is actually a super long utility knife, I think, that helps take off gaskets. You can scrape gaskets when you can't really reach well. There's just smaller little pry bars and things like that. This is a gasket or a seal remover. That, I think, was a window seal remover. I think it is. And I don't remember exactly how it even works, but, and then I've got just a bunch of little pry bars. That's kind of it. This is supposed to be, this I need to throw away. This is a really cheap hog ring plier set for doing upholstery stuff, and all that happens with that Garage Pro. Don't buy the Garage Pro version at Harbor Freight. That all that happens when you squeeze those pliers is they bend. They don't bend the hog rings. Down in here, this final drawer is a bunch of different puller things. I've got the def sticks for suspension springs, spring compressors. I've got a air conditioning fuel kit. There's various pullers, pulleys, and different things. I've got a big cold chisel. I've got a timing light, and then back there is a seal, rear seal for transmissions. You can pull it without having to pull the tail off of a transmission. You can pull seals. It does, I think, T4s, T5s. I can't remember exactly what else. And then this is some sort of vacuum type kit. I think it's for doing brakes and things like that. I don't use it for that. I'm trying to remember what I used it for, but not brakes. Okay, so that's the right side. All right, now I'm going to run down the left side drawers. This drawer is just a bunch of stuff. I've got scrapers, some files, more scraping things. I've got bits and pieces of sandpaper. Yeah, there's another one that needed to get put away. I've got mirrors, punches. Most of my punches are up here. I do have a punch set somewhere else. I'm not sure. This another cold chisel, a couple of small chisels and punches and that sort of stuff in here. I got a cheap utility knife that I used a lot today. And I've got one of these for, I've got a bunch of old hex wrenches there. Don't know why they're there, but they are. Okay, here's the next drawer. This is back in here. I've got a bunch of gasket sealer stuff, various thread lockers. Ugh, that one's leaking. Great. That's the problem with this drawer. That's why I put these bins in here, because things leak. I've got a bunch of different little flashlights I can use. You can see my mag light broke, so I have a hybrid mag light that I've been trying to use for a while. That thing I should throw away. It's so dim relative to everything now. I've got a bunch of these extendable magnets and things to pick stuff up in mirrors and whatever. I just keep buying that stuff. Some scissors, knives. And then I've got a full set of drill bits in here. Alright, next drawer is most of my ratchets. These are pretty much most of my 1/2 inch. This is a Koken. I've just started using that. It's a real small for a 1/2 inch, but it's hefty too. But it's a pretty nice ratchet. Then I've got some longer Tekton ratchets that I don't like keeping up in the upper drawer. I've got this big old Craftsman 1/2 inch with the head, and it's probably rusty because as a kid I left it out. It was my dad's. Got another breaker bar, and then I've got one of these bad boys. This is a Icon. Oh, it's a Tekton. I thought that was an Icon, but it's a Tekton. All right. Then I've got some removers for different types of line fittings. I've got some old school brake tools. In here are some just big wrenches. I got the rest of this set is somewhere downstairs. I've got various cutters to cut tubing and things like that. I've got the giant channel locks, and I've got this giant adjustable wrench, which is nice. 15 inch is pretty nice. It's a nice big thing, but it was too big for today. I actually needed an adjustable wrench when I was working on the tie rod ends, and I had to run downstairs to my tool bag and get that. So I need to buy myself some more adjustable wrenches for up here. I think I just need a set of 2 that are smaller and smaller than that. And then I have electronic stuff. I've got the big soldering gun. My regular soldering gun stays down in the annex. I've got a tester that I just used on the Miata to test spark. I've got a probe. I think this is a temperature probe. And then I've got, this is an LCR. I do have a multimeter that usually is in here. I don't know where it is. And then I've got crimper for WeatherTech connectors, I think that is. And then this is for the ForScan. I don't know if you know Fords and you've mucked around with them, you can go in and edit all the parameters using this program called ForScan. That's what that's for. This is a trailer testing stuff for my trailer. These are a bunch of removal tools for radios, things like that. And then just some wire to do some quick repairs if I need it. Now I'm getting into the air tools. So I've got air hammer, I've got a little air ratchet, and then a little air saw, which works really well, a die grinder. All the stuff that goes with all that is in here. And I've got the Teflon tape to keep my air fittings flowing okay. Down in here should be more air. Yep. So I've got the bigger grinders. I've got my impact wrench, which is starting to not work so well. I've got the bigger grinder here, all the grinder wheels, and then I've got this thing that can heat up. Uses these, nailed by this thing, uses these things. You can put it around a bolt and plug that thing in and push a button on it, and it'll heat it up and it'll heat the bolt. It's pretty cool. So if you're really trying to get something out, it can heat something up pretty good. And it's kind of a nice thing to have so you don't have to burn everything around it. So that's the toolbox. This is my auxiliary cabinet. You can see I got a little sheet with some of the things I need to know about some of my cars. Then I've got a whiteboard over here, so while I'm in the middle of a project I can keep my list going. Open it up, it's a mess. This is kind of messy in here. I've got a bunch of car cleaning supplies and stuff down all around. But here I've got rear axle bearing service kit, disc brake caliper tools. I've got a leak detection kit here where you can put the use the black light to figure out where leaks are in your car and put the stuff in there. That one's got to stand up like that, oddly enough. I've got a fuel injection pressure test kit. This is a combustion leak tester. You'll see a lot about radiators in here. This is a bearing race seal install kit. Just has a bunch of things in there that you can bang things in, seals mostly. Got a radiator pressure tester kit here, and then this is my Autel, which to use to that replaces a lot of those computers as I was talking about earlier. That's big tester. That thing's nice to have. Pretty expensive, and if I get any new cars, it'll require a subscription to upgrade, and it knocks down all this stuff. Working on the car crap. I've got brushes. These are all for working on interiors there when I'm cleaning them out. What's up in here? That's just my car polishing stuff, mostly. I'm not sure what that connects to. Oh, there's a battery charger down in there. It's mostly polishing claws, that kind of stuff. And then I've got the dye for that other kit. Some more of that there. I'm gonna go ahead and point the camera down. Okay, further down here I have a slide hammer, which works with my rear axle bearing service kit that you saw earlier. I have another radiator pressure tester. I've got a ball joint set. This thing's just a monster. I don't know how many things I've used this on. It's not just ball joints, but it's got one of these big old C clamps. You put all these other things on there and you can press bearings out and ball joints and things like that. It works really well. I used it so much, especially on trucks. It's the reason that I have a 20-ton press down in my annex now, is that I used that so much and I really wanted a 20-ton press. Down in here I have brake bleeding stuff. I got this Motive power bleeder, which works great for bleeding brakes by myself when I don't need anybody else. I've just got some fluids and some cleaning supplies down in there. I have, for this Motive bleeder, I've got, instead of using the generic kit, I've got kits for all the different cars that I have where you just can kind of put a cap on them and bleed them. It's a bit of a luxury, but I do it all myself, so I kind of need that. And down there, that's a box for where these should go. Okay, that's all that's in there. Alright, I'm going to start with these cabinets from left to right. Not that there's any particular reason. Over there, that orange thing is a thread tester. And then this cabinet, I've moved a lot of stuff out of this cabinet down into the annex when I built the hardware store down there. And you can see I've moved some stuff back up. These are like a bunch of nuts and bolts that are car specific. I don't really need that down there. It's more useful up here. These are like a bunch of car parts. There's fuses and fuses and a bunch of the Christmas tree connector things for interior parts. And under the hood, that's a lot of Ford under the hood has that. A lot of those kind of clips in here. And then there's one more in here that this is just a bunch of stuff. This is like air tool fittings. There's some pop rivets in there here and there, but there's bolts for the Miata specifically, wheel bolts. There's a few other things. There's some drain line, some line stoppers, and then there's race seatbelt parts in there for the Miata. Okay. I also have, again, I have my leather pack set in here, and looks like another set of crimpers or something. I have some finishing pads here for when I was working on my roll bar painting, probably. This is body bolts. Probably for a Miata. I got some wiring stuff up here just to have. There's special screws for something that I have a receipt there for. I've got cotter pins. And then these are for mostly trailers. I have the self-drilling screws for when I have to hack some trailer wiring, which is fairly often. And then these are for the weather pack, again, connectors. And then I just have a bunch of zip ties in here. On the front of this cabinet, I've got 2 whiteboards. One I put for each car with the maintenance history on them. And I use that for a while, and then I take a picture of it and I erase it. Then I have my magnetic parts holder that I grab off of here. And inside of this one is just a bunch of different fluids. I've got, I don't know, some various brake fluids. I've got some gear oil up there. These are K&N filter cleaner type things. This one's for the Mustang. Came with the, I think, JLT thing. I've got a bunch of just different stuff down in here. Grease. I've got electrical cleaners, throttle body cleaner. I've got some grease back there. I got red line on the bottom, some Mobil 1 over there. I've got grease packs over there. I think they're red line as well. I've got the whoop-de-doo surface sealant for BMW up there. I've got some steel lube for the shafts inside of a trimmer, I think is what that's for. Alright, this homemade cabinet used to be the key to life for me. This was my main socket set before I upgraded my toolbox and put the new Tecton sets in there. But up here I have my Milwaukee stuff. I use all 12 volt fuel stuff. This is a 3/8 ratchet. I've got this impact driver, and this one's a nice one because it's got settings for how hard it hits. That way I'm not ripping things apart. That's why I stick with 12 volt as well. I have a heavy hand sometimes, and when I set this on 1, I can do interior plastic parts and it's not going to crack everything and break it apart. So I kind of like that thing. Then I have a small drill. If I need something bigger and badder, I'll go downstairs and get some stuff out of my toolbox that's down there. Up here I keep hockey pucks. Put those on top of either my jack stands or my jack while I'm working on cars. And then most of the rest of this is gloves. I have some chocks, wheel chocks back in there. And then comes this set. Up here I don't think I have anything anymore. It's mostly down in the box. But each of these things, each of these drawers, this is the 1/4" drawer. And you can see as I got older, I couldn't see anything, so I started marking, I started painting the numbers on here with a paint pen. And I upgraded most of these sets to be 6-point. So the 1/4" set is intact still, so you can see it's all 6-point for the most part. If there's 12-point bits in there, it's because when I bought the 6-point set it wasn't complete. I think there's a 12-point set right there because it mirrors this set in 6-point, but yeah, I keep one of each in there for most of the things. And same with the 3/8. The 3/8 right now, the tall bits are probably all 12-point in here because I put the 6 points down because I haven't done the update for the Tectons on the tall bits. And then this is my only 1/2" set that I have, and you can see I upgraded over here. There's a lot of 6 points. I don't know exactly why I have so many 12 points over here, but oh, I see it's above 19, so I only did up to 19 in 6-point. And I never did the US sizes. And I'm missing at least one, but that was my main socket set, my only socket set really, and then I'd had just piles of sockets in my drawers and stuff that were completely disorganized that I used. But one of the problems, the reason that I changed over from Craftsman, I might have mentioned it before, was that I couldn't see, so I had upgraded these to these laser cut ones. And I'll try to show. They did that at the very end as Craftsman was kind of going away from what it was to being a new thing. Hopefully you can see that. And then the older style ones were these, they were cut in there, and I just can't see those when I'm working on the car. Figure out which is which. These were a little better. My awesome new lighting kind of makes them too shiny. But the Tecton sockets really look pretty good. Let me grab this 16 here, and you can see that 16 is pretty readable. Down below this cabinet I've got all the bits for my impact for this guy. Got a bunch of adapters for sockets in here. That's the main thing I use, but I've got all the different screwdriver sizes. I've got some long, shorts, all that kind of stuff for when I'm working on things in the cars. This cabinet is my mostly non-tool related sticker bomb cabinet. And it's mostly car cleaning stuff. I have some mineral spirits over there, but it's mostly different things. There's some sticker remover type stuff. But almost everything in here has to do with cleaning cars. And some to do with paint. Up here I have some paint prep type things to when I'm painting. Usually if I'm painting something, it's where it rusted and I'm just trying to do a little patch. I don't really do serious painting, but that's all that's in that one. Alright, so down here is another small box that I keep on top here. On the side I have a bunch of various work lights, these kind of flip type work lights. These are some cheapo ones that I have. I have some other nicer ones down here, Icon, and the better Harbor Freight one than the Icon actually. And then there's some bins up here that are just kind of full of junk. And there's some things for my battery chargers and stuff like that that I don't know what to do with right now. I've got my tire filling adapter here. I've got a circuit tester, which I have a bunch of. My other one of those is in my Miata right now because I was testing the circuit. I've got a broken battery that I dropped. I've got a bunch of these kind of things to help me jack up cars. This is one. There's one right here up above that I modified for doing a C3 Corvette, or C4 Corvette, sorry. Then I've got some air blowers. This one is the one that is functioning right now. I've got some glasses that I use when I'm underneath cars. These are the safety glasses that used to be in my shop, and you can hardly see through them, but they're good when I'm underneath of something banging on it and stuff's dropping on me. So in here is just a bunch of junk mostly. There's some electrical tape there. That's probably the most useful thing in this drawer. There's, for cleaning, I use Q-tips, and then I have this stuff for my Tecton organizers for sockets in here to maintain that. When pieces of sticker fall off. And I have bicycle repair tools in this one. This is all quick air up when I'm out riding. I can use this thing to air up. I keep one in it upside down so I can flip it around and air up a bicycle thing. And then these thin wrenches are actually super useful, so I keep them lined up nice because I use them for a lot of things. And then down here is more bike crap. So I've just got tubes and chain cleaner, some junk parts. So this thing could stand to be more useful. I don't do as much bicycle stuff anymore as I used to. Alright, on top of the cabinets there's something in that toolbox that I think it's bicycle related. On top of that I have the old school battery charger. It'll bring back dead batteries. I've got a junk box, and then I've got all my jack stands up there, and over there I've got shop rags. And again, up above on the shelf I have a bunch of just parts bins.
that's my toolbox tour. Thank you for watching. Happy holidays. And please subscribe and like this video. Thanks. Some Black Friday purchases. I got a new welder over there, which might be next summer because it's like 40 degrees right now in here. So I'm not too excited to be out here doing stuff. And I got a new lighting so that my videos will hopefully look better, and hopefully this tour looks pretty good. What was I supposed to say? What was the thing I kept forgetting to say?